Hey YouTube, I am Nate. Today I'm making a video response to Angry Cops. He's actually a pretty funny guy on YouTube. If you can find some of his old vines where he was a drill sergeant, those are even funnier, and I recommend checking out his channel because he's got a lot of humorous content on there delivered in a very hyperbolic way, as you'll see coming up here. We're going to respond to his video concerning the Gillette ad, which has stirred up some controversy recently. Before we begin, I want to point out a couple things that he does in this video that I'm going to touch on more in detail. He seems not to understand the definition of toxic masculinity, at least in the context that it's used in the Gillette advertisement. And I think this is a problem with most of the men responding to the Gillette video in a negative way.
There it is. Toxic masculinity. Oh, you know when masculinity wasn't so toxic? How about World War I and II? Maybe Korea, Afghanistan. You catch my drift? It isn't an entire sexist fault that we had a couple turds that went rogue and started ruining the world for everybody else. Masculine traits aren't toxic. It's the individual and how he uses those traits that create negative outcomes. How is this term not sexist?
The term's not sexist because it doesn't refer to all men or the whole of masculinity. Toxic masculinity is when you say a man is not a real man for not displaying what you think is a masculine trait. For example, you say someone's not a real man because they can't drive a stick shift. We see this come up in car culture a lot. Or they're not a real man because they can't change a tire, or whatever else you may attribute to being masculine.
Perfect. Booty
It's been
shaking,
going on far too
sexist behavior, inappropriate jokes. How could the group of people that made these commercials back in the day yell at us for glorifying the things that they told us to glorify? Hi, I'm a multi-million-dollar media company and I want you to view women as objects. They're hot, grab their butts, make inappropriate jokes. 30 years later, hey, you sons of bitches, how dare you make jokes about women and grabbing butts? You sexist, misogynistic, toxic masculinity having sons of bitches. Maybe people thought it was appropriate because you were shoving it in our throats with these stupid commercials every time you turned on the tube.
Because people can change their minds. I think Gillette realizes, hey, we made some pretty shitty advertisements in the past that promoted some pretty horrible ideas, and now we want to change that. They aren't yelling at you, by the way. They're just suggesting that you be a better person by intervening when you see other men doing bad shit. I mean, I figure you understand that, being a U.S. Army soldier, that when you see other people doing bad stuff, you step in to stop them.
What I actually think she's trying to say.
Mansplaining. You gotta be shitting me. You think that only happens to women? You think Gary in the tax office doesn't cut off Glenn mid-conversation because Glenn happened to make a mistake and Gary wants to help him out? Or maybe Gary's just a dick?
What is it with this whataboutism, by the way? It's always, well, what about women? Or what about this time this thing happens to men also? The ad doesn't address that for a reason because it's irrelevant to the conversation. They're just asking you to step in when you see someone doing shitty things, whether that be to men or women. If you see someone quote-unquote mansplaining, then step in and say, hey, she had a good point to make, let her finish. It's not difficult, and you having a frickin' aneurysm over it doesn't help anything. All in all, my point is this. All Gillette asked you to do was be a better person, and you shouted no for some reason. Is it really too difficult for you to intervene when you see boys and men doing things to hurt other people? Is that too much to ask? Because if you truly want to create a culture of accountability, then it starts with you. Start holding other people accountable and stop getting so angry when other people ask you to do that.